Hi, and welcome to a new series of tutorials. In this tutorial we are going to talk about how we could take a real life footage like this one and implement a 3D object into it. As you can see, I have left this area of the desk empty so that when something happens, when the finger clicks, something could happen in this area. Before we can take this footage into 3D Studio Max, we have to get or extract every single frame as an image. In order to do that, we're going to go into After Effects, and I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to load up the image that I have, and I'm just going to click and drag that down here. Now this is the footage that I have. It's same as what you've seen before. I don't really like this last bit where the camera tries to adjust to my finger because we don't want any movement really in the camera. So I'm gonna actually go to here and just make sure the video finishes by the time it gets to here. Also, what I'm gonna do, which I forgot to do, is to go here and open up this program so you can see the shortcuts and the keyboard shortcuts that I press. Okay, so we have the caps lock on. So we have to extract every frame as a separate image. How do we do that? We need to start rendering this. To do that, we need to go to, I believe it's Edit or File, Export. No, actually, it's in Composition, Add to Render Queue. Control M is a shortcut. Once you know the shortcuts, you don't really need to look for the menus. So Control M sends it to the render queue, and you want to go to where it says Lossless. The format, I'm gonna use JPEG. You could use something like a PNG sequence, that would be fine as well. In this case, I'm just gonna go with a JPEG sequence, and I'm gonna press OK. And the format option, let's have a look. Bigger file size, that just gives me the maximum quality that I can get. I'm gonna press OK, and then you will see that the name changes to this. You'll have all these hashes here, which means that your image will be saved as clip 00001, and the next image is clip underscore 00002, 003, 4, 5, and it continues in a queue like that. And I want to put them all here. Actually, I might create a new folder and call it I might call these. Why would I not have it as? Right? Oh, I guess I can't write it in. I actually can. JPEGs. How hard can it be to type JPEG? Okay, I'm gonna save them here as clip, whatever. Save, and I'm gonna hit render. Hopefully, it shouldn't take long for it to render, so I'm not going to pause the video here. What it's doing, or hopefully what it's doing, is that it's extracting all of these frames into a separate image, which is exactly what we need in order to take into 3ds Max. Each of those images will sit on a frame. Okay, let me go ahead and open up this file. Okay, that's done. So if I go to my JPEG folder, you can see that I have how many images? It says I have 317 different images, which just show my finger, my fingers kind of clicking and then a thumbs up coming up. 317 images. Good. We can close After Effects now and go into 3ds Max. We want to bring those images and put them in a background. In order to do that, we need to go to View, and then we want to go to Viewport Background and then we're going to go to configure view per background. Alt B is a shortcut. Here we want to use a file, and I'm going to click on files, and I'm going to go and find the very first JPEG. And before I press open, I want to make sure that I come down here and I click on sequence, so it knows that it needs to bring everything in. If I go to setup, everything's fine, I guess. Sequence, and press OK, and press OK to that. What's happened now is that 3ds Max has got access to those images, and not only to the images themselves, or only to one image. It has access to the entire images that we rendered out. And we're going to say animate background. Press OK. So now what I have is my background being changed, and as I move my timeline, you should be able to see that the animation plays in my background, which is exactly what I need. Okay, that's good. But of course I need to increase my frames to see the rest of the animation. But before we get to that, what we need to do is we need to make sure that our viewport, or what we see, is the same resolution as the images. I know for a fact that the resolution of my images are 1080p. So what I want to do is press F10 to go to my render setup, or you could click on this icon here, and then here you could click on custom HDTV and then choose 1920 by 1080p. And now what you want to do is hold shift and press F, and that will give you this extra window. Now this is exactly the size of your window. Now the next stage is to make sure that this grid that we have here matches something, such as the table or maybe this box that I have here. So what I need to do is zoom in and out enough times in order to rotate and scale this grid, well not scale but zoom in and out from it, to a point that I could see the grid sits on one of these surfaces. So in this case this looks roughly okay. The edge of this edge of the grid sits with this edge of the table. On the other side it matches it pretty well but not perfect. I could try to adjust that a tiny bit. Let's have a look. That seems better. What you want to do is to make sure that these objects sit exactly, the grid sits exactly on something within your object. Now if you don't have a table, you want to make sure that you have some sort of a reference in your image in order to make this easier for yourself. So the grid is set. If I was to create a box, or let's create a teapot, if I was to create a teapot here, because I have set the grid correctly, it would seem like the teapot is sitting right on top of that grid, or on top of the table. Now once we are happy with this, we need to record this position. We need to record the position of how we look at the grid. In order to do that, I'm going to press Ctrl C to create a camera, and then now I know I created the camera because on here it says camera. I'm going to go to perspective. You're going to make sure that you press P immediately, because if you don't, you could go and change your camera. So make sure you press P immediately after you press Ctrl C. Now I want to make sure that I can in no way or form move any of these. Not only the camera but the target as well. So I want to select them both. I want to go to the hierarchy tab, link info, and I want to check all these boxes here so that I can't rotate or move any of this. So now even if I wanted to, I couldn't move the camera or the target. So the camera is locked in that place. That's great. Cool. I'm going to stop the video here, and then I'll see you in the next chapter.